Hey guys, Brian from Snowwalker Bushcraft, and today I'm going to start off in the tracking series by kind of telling you which way I want to go with it. I'm going to go over the minimum number of items that you need in your kit for tracking purposes. We'll go over the anatomy of basically footprints or your track per se. We're going to go over track measurements. Right? We're going to discuss the gaits and the trails, and then finally we'll have trail measurements. With that, we'll go over the different species and some things to look for. The materials or the reference materials that I'm going to reference is only going to be 2 books. I do have several books from different authors. The 2 books that I'm going to be using in this series, and it's primarily again going to be in the Northeast because there's a whole host of animals and different species, and I can't cover them all. But what I'm going to use for this are these 2 books. This one's by James Halfpenny. It's Mammal Tracking in North America. Alright, and also his book, Scats and Tracks for the Northeast. Okay? I was taught by James Halfpenny. You can look him up on the internet. He taught me basic tracking and advanced tracking. I was in Yellowstone National Park for 10 days learning from him in the backcountry. Tracking is, I don't want to say subjective, but over the course of what I have read in the different books, a raccoon track is a raccoon track is a raccoon track. Alright? There's no changing it. There is no generalized there's no standardized terms that all these trackers use. One tracker may call a rotary gallop one thing, another tracker may call it another type of gallop, and that's what I've seen. Alright, I'm not going to sit here and try to step on toes of different trackers and what they have taught, more of the well-known trackers. I'm just going to try to convey the information that I was taught. Okay, so with that being said, just roughly, the needed items is very simple. You can make your kit as elaborate as you want, and you saw my tracking kit in my video if you took a look at it. But the 3 basic things that you need for tracking is you need some type of notebook, you need a ruler, and you need a pen. Right? Those are the 3 minimum items that you need to help you understand a little bit more about tracking. Reference materials are good, and you should have them. And in this book, Scats and Tracks, there has a ruler in the back that you can use while you're taking pictures as well, if you want to add a camera to your kit. So those are the minimum number of needed items. Let's go on into anatomy right now, and we'll discuss that. When we start talking about anatomy or of the footprint, or the nomenclature of the footprint, we need to know a few things. All mammals, including humans, alright, their toes are numbered from 1 to 5. And starting on the inside of the track, alright, these would all be considered right-hand tracks, okay? So this is towards the center of the body, alright? This is number 1, this is number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. Over the course of time, and as the animals developed, some of the toes per se may not be visible or present. They may either one be non-functioning in the case of a canine, which would be the dew claw on the front feet. All right, that would be back here. That would be number 1, but the dew claw doesn't register, and it's non-functional in the case of a canine. Okay, so the dew claw would be number 1. This would be number 2, number 3, 4, and number 5 in the case of a canine. Now when we talk about the deer family, or the ungulates, right, it's a cloven foot or cloven hoof, right? Number 1 isn't present at all. Number 2 becomes the first dew claw. Number 3 is the first part of the cloven hoof. Number 4 is the second part of that same hoof. And then number 5 becomes the last dew claw, or the last pad that you're going to actually see. In mammals like us, all right, we have our foot, and again, so this would be our big toe, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then finally number 5 is going to be our pinky. All right, so that would be a human. All right, let's talk about some other things in the footprint. As we go along with our numbering, each toe will have what's known as a toe pad, which would be here. Underneath, directly underneath the toe pad, is known as the interdigital pad. And then underneath the interdigital pad is known as the proximal pad. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. It depends on the species of animal that we're talking about. In canine, you don't have a proximal pad, but you do have your toe pads, and you do have the interdigital pad. In the case of a cloven animal, such as the deer family, okay, here, right here, on the clout, that would be known as the wall. Right here. Or the unguinus. I believe that's what how it's pronounced. Unguinus. The wall is known as the unguinus. This part inside the clout would be known as the subunguinus. Right here. This part here is the pad. And then finally, you have your dew claws. Alright guys, so that's it as far as for anatomy and nomenclature of, you know, an animal and the track that it leaves behind. Kind of dry, I understand that. Sometimes you have to get information out in a dry way. I understand that. I'm sorry. Well, I'll try to keep it a little bit more interesting as we go along, and I'll try to keep the video short. So the next installment of this is going to be track measurements, and we'll go from there. So this is Brian from Snowwalker Bushcraft, and thank you for your views and your comments, and until the next one, walk the woods.